So joining me now from her home in Calgary is Michelle Stirling from Friends of Science and her brand new kitten, Charlie, named after Charlie Hebdo, she tells me. Michelle, thanks for joining me. I guess we'll get right into it. There's so much to talk about, the throne speech, the whole green restart. But let's start a little closer to home first. Premier Kenney was recently criticized for his comments on intersectionality and India. So the headline at 660 News reads, and a Calgary City Councillor is very mad about all of this.
Well, actually, I don't know about the Calgary City Councillor's story, but I do know about Max Fawcett.
Please do. I was just going to say there's a Ward 3 councillor in Calgary whose family originated in India. And he's very mad that Jason Kenney said that India cannot move forward with the green future that everybody seems to think that they can.
Oh, well, Dr. Kandekar, who's our scientific advisor, is also from India. And he's told me several times that when the temperature drops in India and the risk of, say, a solar minimum, is that people don't have central heating. So they go outside, the poor people, of course, go outside and they burn anything they have, tires, plastic, dung, firewood, whatever, chaff from the field, to try and keep warm, and huddle around these outdoor fires. And I guess the controversy started because Premier Kenney pointed out that India has, 1.3 billion people, and they're primarily operating the country on coal, some nuclear, oil, and dung and biofuels. But biomass, this is gathered biomass from the fields. This is not something like here where we go and harvest a forest and turn it into wood pellets. So the controversy is really about whether or not they're going to jump from fossil fuels and go directly to, wind and solar and bypass the mistakes of the West, as sort of Max Fawcett tried to frame it. But you can look at the International Energy Agency graphs, and I'll send them to you, but you can see that the coal use there is enormous. The use of dung is at least 30% of the energy supply. And, places like India and Africa are being stymied by the West. Actually, Robert Lyman did an article called Saving the Planet on the Backs of the Poor, because the World Bank has refused to finance coal-fired power plants for them. And coal is the most affordable and most available form of energy. And in a modern plant, it's really not a pollution problem. So, that's what people should really be doing to help India get ahead, both with industry and to provide people with running water, pumped sewage, industry, jobs, all the things that people here take for granted. Most of the people there don't have. So, I guess the whole controversy was about jumping into electric vehicles. And Premier Kenney had said something to the effect that, in 15 years, they won't all be driving Teslas there. And that's quite true, because you have to realize that if you're going to drive an EV, you need to plug it into something. And usually it's plugged into a coal plant. People like to imagine, oh, I'll plug it in here and now I'm running in a clean car. Well, it depends where your power is coming from. And most of the time, a lot of it is coal. So that's not going to happen overnight. And if you look at Quebec, for instance, let's say, oh, wow, Quebec, all that hydro, we could run all of Quebec on EVs. No, you can't. Actually, they don't even have enough hydro in Quebec for 8 million people with that massive James Bay Dam, the Robert Bourassa Dam. They don't have enough hydro to power all of Quebec. So how would India, which already has blackouts, frequent electrical blackouts for days, hours and days, how would it run an EV fleet? It's totally ludicrous. So actually, we just did a little video about this issue for Canada, because Canada doesn't have enough power generation for the present EV policy. So just have a look at our Climate Barbie takes an EV for a spin. It's on our YouTube channel. So anyhow.
I think that's a great example of the unintended consequences of green policies, these green finance policies, where they've refused to finance coal-fired electricity generation in India. And that hasn't, of course, I mean, any thinking person probably could have seen this. It hasn't prompted them to skip over coal and move to green energy. It's actually caused a backtrack in how they produce their energy needs, using dung, burning anything that they can find, because people are always going, especially in the developing world, people will choose what's cheaper and what's available. They don't have the luxury of going green, because really it is a first world luxury. It's not something that is even remotely feasible in the developing world.
That's right. And, many of the problems in India, where the West has tried to impose solar panels on them, for instance, they built a huge solar farm there. Well, it's very dusty there. It's quite a dry country in between the monsoon seasons. So you have to clean those solar panels off. And now it turns out that they're using water from an aquifer to clean off these panels, but the people themselves don't have drinking water. This is taking away from the fundamental survival of the people just to try and impose some green ideology on the poorest people of the world. Like, it's really a crime against humanity. It's ridiculous.
If you'd like to get access to my show, as well as other great TV style shows too, like Ezra's Nightly Ezra Levant Show, and David Menzies' Friday night show, Rebel Roundup, just go to rebelnews.com/subscribe. That's rebelnews.com/subscribe.